Trigger warning. This episode contains material of highly sensitive nature, including graphic descriptions of war that may be triggering to some individuals. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is your sister and friend Adar, and you're listening to the Digital Sisterhood podcast. Islamophobia is a disease that permeates the Western world. Let's not dance around it. We've all felt it at different levels, at different extremes. When you live in the West, particularly in a secular country, it can be very hard to practice your religion. I mean, they make our hijabs feel so heavy on our heads. But what are the consequences of that? If you've been keeping up with us this season, and I hope you have, you will have heard Lubna's story out of France. Today, though, I'm going to tell you another story that starts in France, but ends somewhere completely different. This story is about Sara, a schoolgirl facing an identity crisis, growing up in a place where she felt she had to hide.
So growing up in France, it was basically like a normal life, like every other kids that grow up in UK or Denmark or etc. But the only difference I noticed it was about my Islamic identity, because in France you cannot wear hijab at school. You cannot talk about deen, with your friends, etc., because they see it as a bad thing. They told us like all the things that concern the deen matters, it stay at home. So growing up, I thought that the deen is a private thing. It's not like, a thing that you have to be proud of. Like, it's a thing that you have to keep secret. I think both my parents and me, we weren't prepared to the life in France, because my parents were seeking a good life for their kids. They didn't know, how it's gonna become with the teen matter in France. They said to us to be just quiet kid at school. I remember a memory that happened when I was in school. And I remember back then with my Islamic teacher at school, she always said us to never listen what the French were telling us, to not trust all the things they were saying, like maybe to help us to not forget about our identity, because France, they want you to be secular, So basically, to me, it was pretty confusing, because at school, I never talk about teen. I do my stuff, good at in my class, etc. And when I come back home, I have Arabic class, I have Quran class. So I had two lives. It was pretty confusing at first, because you cannot divide a person into your identity is one. I remember that when I had to go to school and take it off my hijab, at first it was shameful, because it's like leaving all your Muslim side outside of the door of the school. It's a feeling that every French girl, every hijabi French girl can share it. So basically, with my school, there were a big parking for car next to it. So me and my hijabi friend, we used to go in the parking so nobody see us. Because, taking off your hijab outside the school, every people look at you. It's something that every French girl experiences, when the men look at you, or the no Muslim girl look at you. Like, it's just not the kids around you. It's like, the stranger that just work in the street next to the school, some grown man or grown woman just watching at a group of hijabi taking off their hijab. So at least in my experiences, it was heartbreaking to take off, my hijab. I was wearing the hijab when I was very young, at 7, 8 years old, because, when you have like religious household with some with religious backgrounds, they love to to teach you the deen and to help you start with the salat early, with wearing the hijab early, etc. But when I fell in love with my deen, and that I had my revert experiences, it's at that time that at 14 I started slowly to wear jilbab. So one day I had a book that I was reading about, the spouse of our Prophet Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the things they were wearing. And from my own understanding, it connected with the things I wanted to wear. So this is why I started to wear the jilbab and felt a lot of love for the niqab. But living in France, it was complicated because you were just 14. You want to wear the niqab, but it's banned in the country and you have to go to school. So it's just completely impossible. So I was just wearing my jilbab, and when I have to go to school, just take it off and do my own life. And when I come back at home or when I have to go somewhere, just wear my jilbab again. And in some special occasion that, when there's Eid or something like that, because there's a lot of men, so sometimes I use it to wear quickly a niqab, hoping that no policeman was around. Because, it's so crazy and dangerous for a young girl to wear this thing. Because it's banned, so you can be arrested just because you want to hide your nose and your mouth. Not
Subhanallah.
Subhanallah, it's crazy because just hiding your nose and your mouth with a niqab, you can be arrested for that.
SubhanAllah. I don't think a lot of people understand. A lot of non-Muslims don't understand how much our hijab is. It's like telling us to remove our blackness. SubhanAllah. And I know like some people might disagree with that statement, but I identify first as a Muslim before I identify myself as a woman, before I identify myself, anything else.
Exactly.
But my Islam. And so when to them, it's like, it's just a fabric. It's not a fabric. It's an affirmation and acknowledgement of who created me. Right? And Allah comes first before anything else. But they don't understand that. So you saying like, to me, it's like my skin, Because it is like, it's just to them, it's so it's not understandable to them, right? To their whole understanding about Muslims is these are oppressed women and we need to liberate them.
Yeah.
We need to free them. So we free them by removing the hijab. We free them by, changing their mindset. But subhanAllah, like, what they don't understand is even if you if they force you to take off your hijab, you're still a Muslim. You can't change their belief and what they think and how they see the world.
And it's not even in the school too. It's outside the school. When you go on the bus, every people look at you. When you go to the supermarket, every people look at you. They give you like another treatment. They're gonna be nice with someone before you, but when they see you, their smile like went away.
Disappears, yeah.
Yeah, it just disappear. And you show that you wanna smile to them back. Like, I'm not mean. I said nothing.
I'm a nice person.
Yeah, I'm a nice person, but they just look at you like as a second-class citizen scenes and etc. And it just made me all emotional. And I wanted to find, sabar in the deen and look after the deen and seeking answer and response. But I fell in the wrong side.
So imagine this, okay? You're a 15-year-old girl. You start to fall in love with your deen. We all know what it feels like to have a whiff or a taste of high iman, right? And you're about to begin what should be a beautiful journey. And you've got this ache in your heart, that eager passion to learn more about your religion. But you're not sure where to go, who to run to, or how to learn. Your heart is wanting, it's open. But it's at this moment of vulnerability, that someone takes advantage of you.
The beginning that I remember, because before we hear about, the kids going somewhere, etc., there was a new masjid in our town, and I had a friend that used to go to that masjid. And so she just invited me to go with her. So I started to go there time to time with my friend. And at that masjid, she used it, to have courses, lessons. And after her lessons, she used it to show me what she learned, today I learned this at the masjid, etc. And it was, new things in the deen I never learned before. After that, when you cannot speak Arabic or don't have a lot of books, because, when you are a teenager, you have to ask your parents for money, because if you don't work, you don't have money. So your money is your primary money. And so I just started, to go on the internet and looking for, the free books, free Islamic books. Yes. Or just learnings, the deen on internet. But when you are kids, you are not like that mature to understand that you cannot learn the thing from internet.
So I guess tell me about the day when you I guess found this community online.
I remember the community online. It was mainly on Facebook back then, I think it was in 2013, 2014 in the beginning. And then I was on Facebook. And when you start to have one or two new friends on Facebook, this community just, add new person without even talking to him, just having them around. And then I was just agree, everyone adding me to their friends group. And then at that time, I started like having new friends.
What was it like having new friends? It must have been nice to be like in group of people who were, practicing their faith. Like, what was that like for you to find community of people that were like you?
Basically, like, when you have new friends and you always talking about deen, and somewhere definitely older than me, because I remember a lady that I used to talk a lot with her. She was like double my age. I was 15, I think, 40, 50, and she was like 30.
Wow, subhanAllah.
Yes, she was double my age, and when you are a young kid or teenager, and then you ask, things about deen, you especially feel confident what is the answer of an adult. I had deep respect for her because she always had an answer. Like each time I have a question about deen, she used it to give me the answer. She was also like a role model for me because, she was adult, so she can do all the things she wants. And I was jilbabi. I wanted to wear niqab, and she was niqabi. and tell her, oh, my problem with school. Like she became a little bit of my confidant, Each time I had problem with Dean, etc., I used to tell her, oh, my teacher tell me this today, I had this problem at school or outside, I had this problem. So she was giving me comfort, with all the other friends too, they were also girls from my age, etc. And I remember my first ever niqab that I had, it was a gift from that lady.
Wow. Do you remember where she was from? Was she from France or did she live somewhere else?
No, she was from France, but she used to live in the south. Like she was away from me. We never met.
How often, would you say you spoke to her? Was it once in a while, or is it almost every day?
With that particular lady, it was every day. But I had in the other side, I had plenty friends, my age too, in this community from internet. And some of them, I didn't even knew where they live. And this is particularly the things that was crazy with me, because I had some friends, after a while, I asked them oh, where do you live? And this is where all it started, because when one of them told me that she was in Syria, I didn't, at that time where, the things were going on for me, it wasn't famous on TV that kids were going to Syria, etc. We didn't especially knew all the things ISIS were doing, all this stuff. It was still very new. So when she told me she was in Syria, the only things I knew, it's I remember a war started in Syria, but after that, I didn't know the rest. I was saying, oh, it's not dangerous back there. Are you away from the war? Who it is? You don't want to come in France or somewhere else, like my parents' story. Yes, my parents, they live just the country in the war, And it all started there. She was telling, some friends were telling me, why do I have to go and live in France where I can't live my deen in Syria with no problem, etc. So I was just impressed by them, telling myself wow, just for the deen, they're gonna stay, in their country, because at first I took that it was their country. Even if they were French speaking, maybe I said to myself they were Syrian French girl that maybe grew up in France, then go back to their country before the war start, So it's at that time that all the things started.
Now, we all know the internet can be a very dangerous place. Do you guys remember when we were learning about internet safety and all the precautions we needed to take, all the precautions our parents needed to know? Do you remember that? Well, this screen enables strangers, predators, to enter that space. This is something that happens time and time again, more than people would like to believe. Older men and women target kids on social media, on public forums, in direct messages, striking up conversations with innocent teens who simply don't know any better. Now, Sara, fortunately, was one of those teens, and her lack of knowledge about the deen, but her admirable eagerness to learn, meant that she was a prime target of radicalization. Without the knowledge to verify the information that she was being given, and not knowing any better, she believed everything she was told.
They also, share with me their anger. It happened this and that. Look what they are doing in Syria. Ta-ta-ta. And look how your life is in France. They don't help you. They hate you. Having this hateful speech always, hearing this always as a young teenager, it's not saying to have deep hate like this and grow up with this. Like for at least for 3 years, all I had with this friend, it was like, hateful conversation, anger, like every day and every day. It's at that time that it started, for me to have bad influences. And when the war in Syria become more trending and we see more, picture of the war, video of the war, the kids dying, what some dictator were doing to its own people and what the world were reacting like, as Palestine, you can see what is happening. And when you see what the world is doing for them, like there's just sleeping on their bed and not trying to stop the war,
Makes you angry.
Yeah, and it makes us angry. You can see that we are, when we see what's happening with
Gaza.
The war, in Gaza, the war going. And it's not even a war, it's just some people.
It's a genocide.
Yeah, it's a genocide. And when you see there's genocide going on and the whole world just watching the genocide without doing anything, like, no, me at my grown age, I have, the maturity to not do stupid things and that to reflect. But when you are 15 and you're just spontaneous, when you see something is not right, you're gonna do something about it, And then having all this hateful speech and seeing, especially it was in November 2016, I remember with Aleppo, all the bombing, all the kids crying. Because the bombing, it wasn't only in the Assad side, it was like there was world coalitions, like with Russia, France, America. They were all bombing Syria. So every time there is a booming, it's not like, precisely on one person. It touched everybody around. And when it was kids, pregnant women, miskin old people, and you see all the video, all the propaganda, because the ISIS, they were very, very, very good at the propaganda. All the video they were doing, how the life is nice with them, how you can live your life, your deen completely with freedom, and how the whole world went against in just because you are Muslims, and how they are killing the Syria kids, and etc. You had at the same time the pity for them, the anger for them, and everything. And you're just speechless. And when you have friends there and some that you knew when they were in France and then they disappear for 2 weeks, 3 weeks and go back to, contact you again and they say, oh, I'm in Syria now, I finally do it, etc. And then you ask them how it's going on, how is the life there. And they all give you only positive side with not the bad side. Like, it's just like, turn your mind. And as I said, when you are a teenager, you don't reflect like a mature adult, And when you see all your friends from Facebook one-to-one going to Syria and all the people in Syria asking you to come, and when you are at school or outside in France, the people hate you, they tell you to go back to your own country, etc. You ask yourself, people want me to go back to my country. I don't deserve to be in France, etc. They hate me in France. And some people in Syria, they are waiting for me. They ask me to come. They ask me to help the Syrian kids, And with all the things that going on with my mind, wallahi, subhanallah, you won't even trust me. It was in November that all the bombing were going. I felt sick. I literally felt sick. And it was for 2-3 weeks, I remember. And then in December, the war was still going on, the bombing. And then I have the winter exam before a break for school. And then as I was sick, I went to the doctor. And then she told me that she can give me, a medical certificate so I don't do my exams. I said to her, no, I'm going because, even if I was radicalized, I still have that deep connection with the school and having degree, and I still remain like the good student. So when the doctor tell me that she can give me a certificate so I can just rest at home, because she said maybe it was all due to the cold and the stress. And she told me that maybe it was because of the stress that I felt sick. And subhanallah, I didn't tell her that I had all this, things going on in my mind that make me more stressed and sad when I was seeing the Syria kids. So I just said to her, no, I don't want the certificate. I just want the medication to be better. And then I went to school. I did all my exam. And after my exam, it's the day I finally took my decision to go Syria and finally do maybe some things for my own, just being there and helping as much as I can. So my parents, they never see what we're going through, with all my problem, because I was still a quiet kid. And my jilbab, etc., I wear it before, all the stuff that going on TV with kids going. So my parents...
They didn't even notice. They didn't even notice that something was happening,
subhanAllah. They never click, They just see that I was still going to school, coming back, doing my homework, doing my stuff, and never complaining, never telling them, oh, look what's happening. Never. I just was a quiet kid. But even if I was quiet, I still have, deep talks in my mind. I was the type that I have a lot of overthinking and over, but never speaking to anybody else. It's except the people from social media that were in Syria, or my friend is Syria. But making the decision, it wasn't from, my own perspective, but I had like pressure. I used it to speak to a girl. Maybe she was a lady, I don't know. I didn't have, a lot of information about her. Somewhere, discreet about their affirmation, their age, their thing, etc. And maybe she was just like, maybe it was a man and never knew, but it was, to me, it was a lady that was speaking to me and giving me a little pressure, like putting in my mind all this stuff and saying to me, look, how in France, they don't want you and we need you in Syria. Come help us. At least just come and, when there is a bombing or etc., you can just help at the hospital, or, all this stuff and going on. And I was asking myself, she's right. What am I going to say to Allah? Like, you see all this stuff happening, but what did you do to help your brothers and sisters, And when you are a kid, a teenager, you don't think that because of Muslim, you have to do, with 3 things. With your hands, if not, with your mouth, if not, with your heart,
Mm-hmm.
But when you are a teenager, you just spontaneous and you turn things about this topic of the deen.
I want you guys to remember that the people Sara was speaking to are not no ordinary people. I'm talking about completely trained predators. I mean, they knew what to say, when to say it, how to say it, and they gained Sara's trust and then sought to manipulate her. And guess what? It worked. Sara made the decision to leave her home and her family to go to Syria. Man, it upsets me to even tell you how organized this operation of deceit was. I mean, everything was arranged for Sara. Her tickets were booked. She was told exactly how to leave. And then she was connected with another sister. I mean, these predators wanted to reel in the bait they caught in as quickly as possible. Sara only packed a few items, like she was told, and she made her way to the Turkish border. On that day, she took in the faces of her parents, unsure if she would ever see them again, but driven on by the hope that her actions would please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was, after all, the lie that she had been fed.
So basically the journey, it was like taking like the bus from France to Germany, and then to Germany having another bus to Austria. And then after this country, we had a bus to Bulgaria, Sofia.
Oh, wow. Subhanallah.
And then the Sofia, we had another bus to Istanbul. So basically, when we were going to Bulgaria, we went through some border because we left the Schengen border. Because before that, we didn't use the ID card in Europe, you know.
Yeah.
With the Schengen border, you don't have to use your ID card. You can, travel between Germany, Austria, France, Belgium, etc., with no ID. But once you leave the Schengen border, you have to present. So when we was in the border between Hungary and Serbia, I had to show my ID, and my friend too. We were stopped. They put us in the side. And at that moment, I knew that my journey was done. Like, I knew that I will never reach Syria. When they stopped us in the border, the driver were waiting us with all the people in the bus. But I think that the people in the border, they just tell to the driver he can go because he's not gonna let us go. Then they go and they take me and my friends somewhere. And then, when the things went serious, then when they asked us to follow them and we went, like, they brought us in some room. They separate us in two different rooms, So when I was alone at that moment, I started like to feel a little bit more afraid. I remember they took off my stuff. They look at my stuff. They asked me question like where I was going. Is me and my friend going together or separately? They take off our phones. They ask me to turn on my phone and give them the password.
Oh my God.
And after that, it was men before. And after that, they told me they're gonna some ladies are coming, but I didn't know why. So I just said okay. I was waiting in the room, and when the lady come, they asked me to take off all my clothes.
Oh my God.
All my clothes.
Subhanallah.
And I was shocked because, you never showed, like, you never been naked in front of someone else as a young girl. But when they asked me, like, to be naked and, I asked them, I can keep my underwear. The ladies told me, no, everything. So it was like difficult for me. I was like shocked. And at the same time, when you are a teenager, you have a lot of complexes and you don't want the people to see your complexes. And so asking like a teenager that doesn't have a good relationship with her own body and ask her to take care of everything, it was just heartbreaking for me, especially as Muslim girl. Like, even if they are women, I don't want some woman to see me naked. So I take off everything. I try my best to hide the things I can hide. And they asked me to turn around. So I just did it what they asked me. So all this stuff can go fast. So what happened after that? They tell me and my friends that they are arresting us because we are searched by friends in the Interpol. So when they say that, I just knew my life was done.
Sara told us something that made me very sad at this point. She said her and her friends' first reaction at being told what was going on was to laugh. They laughed. And you know why? Because they were kids. They were only kids. So of course they had a childlike reaction to a very grave situation, a very scary situation that they couldn't even really comprehend at first. Imagine you at the back of a police car in a foreign country laughing. Who would be laughing like that but children? But then the reality set in. These kids were thrust into the adult world. They were not treated like children. Despite being 15, Sara and her friend were arrested and held accountable like adults. No one contacted their parents. Without anyone present to represent them, their fingerprints were taken, and the two girls were put in front of a camera and questioned by the Hungarian police. Then they were separated. Each girl was put into a cramped jail cell, packed with 10 adult women twice their age. The situation was no less than terrifying. There was no offer of a helping hand, no one to advocate for them, no comfort in sight.
So the morning we go in the court, they ask us to be ready and they give us the breakfast, but you are going to the court, you don't feel hungry, It was crazy that I had the breakfast because I didn't eat. I was just stressed, and more because, with all the things happening, I didn't have water to make my, my ablution and pray. So I asked to go to the toilet. I first trying, making my wudu as best because I didn't pray at all because, I was handcuffed with them, not going nowhere, not going to do anything that I was asking myself, subhanallah, because, at that time, when you start to be imprisoned, you start to realize it's not like the same, because we all say like, oh, in France, we cannot do ordain, etc. But definitely the time you cannot you cannot do anything, it's when you have a handcuff. And, having people taking you at this room, their room, they don't care about your salah, they don't care about your hijab, they don't care about anything else. You cannot do anything, So I tried to, make up my salat. I didn't even know the Qibla, where was the Qibla. Wallah, I just pray and wishing it was the Qibla because I had no window, no nothing. And then when we went to the court, they give me all my stuff back. So I put back my jilbab and they handcuffed me. So I went to the court like that. So in the court, it didn't last long. Everything went fast. And then in the court, they said that I was going to the jail for 10 days. The friends have to take me back to France.
So 10 days you're going to spend in jail, but they have 10 days for your government or your national country.
Yes, exactly.
To take you back and to take you to prosecute you in their country because you're their citizen.
Exactly. So the next day that happened, it's when one of the guards come to me and tell me like, in Tuesday you're gonna pack up yourself because your France is coming to take you back to France, you know. So as I knew I was going back to France, I was wondering how is my friend doing? Is she in France or she's still in the prisons? So I just wanted like, you know, having news about her. And then I asked to the guard to have news and they didn't accept at first, you know. So, you know, I was still like rebellious kids at that time. Like, so I forced it. Like, I tell them that I want to know how my friend is doing. And then they accepted it. So they broke me and my friend to see each other. But they didn't let us to speak each other. They just say, you're going to see her, but you're not gonna talk to her. But we were both pissed, like, what's wrong? Like, why we cannot speak to each other? Like, it was crazy, you know? So when we see each other and then they separate us, I was like asking them why I cannot see my friends anymore. What, like, you know, just like wondering with them because some of them could speak English, but you have to understand my English is broken. Their English is broken. And we're trying to understand each other, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard for us to communicate. And then at that time, big stuff happened, like with the misunderstanding. They asked me to go back to myself violently, like one of them tried to punch me. And I hated, like, you know, at least when you ask someone to do something, ask the person, like, as a human person, like, give them their human rights, like they are not animal that you can purge, etc. Because with them, I feel like I was object sometimes, like how they were pulling me, etc. So one of them trying like to pull me forcefully in my room like this, and I just pull his hand out of me because I'm still a Muslim girl, so, and I hate having like men touching me, and I think it just pissed him, and he just jumped on me and put me in the floor like violently, and then I started like you know, to defend myself because I was afraid he killed me. Like,
oh my God.
it was like still a crazy thing. Imagine someone just jump at you and put you violently in the floor, you know. So I was trying to defend myself, and then they all started to be on me. Like, I think there were six men like this on me. Like, one was sitting in my shoulder, another one was in my back, some were like grabbing my legs, etc. And you know, when you have a lot of people on you, it's like, you know, the same experiences that Joyce Flans when he was saying, I can breathe. Like, you know, I was panicking and I had like, I was on the floor with a lot of people on me. And I started, at that time, it was the first time I started to cry. I cried for my story because, like, you know, all the things in my mind come, I'm in prison, I did this stuff, my life is done, I don't know what's happening, they are all on me. Like, you know, it went fast in my mind. I started to cry. Like, it was a crazy experience. It's my first time being violented like that with people, like especially with men, and then being, you know, just a young teenager girl facing all this stuff. And at that time, I thought that I was going to die. Like, I think that in prison, a lot of things can happen. Some people can die, and they're not gonna give you the right answer, what happened, etc. So I just think that I was dying, like they were going to kill me. So I was just screaming, I can't breathe, leave me alone, and trying to defend myself, but like they were all on me, so I can do nothing and just let it off. And when I started to feel tired and stopping everything, and they put my head on the floor, like one of them was like the one that was sitting on my shoulders, and he put my head on the floor. I just like wished to die at that time and said, "It's done. I give up on life. Do what you have to do." And so it was crazy.
We know this tale all too well, huh? People of color being treated differently to our white counterparts, being treated as subhuman, not worthy of the same respect, with the same humanity. My heart aches, physically aches for the Black boys and girls adultified as kids, aged by the ugly voice of hate that rears its head at every opportunity. Our young people are not allowed to make mistakes. The world will not forgive them. What Sara and her friend did was wrong. It was not okay. Not by any religious standards. And not according to the law. No one is disputing that. But there are also laws in place that should ensure the well-being of children in the judicial process. And be real, Sara deserved far better.
So basically, when they take me to the room and that I was crying, there was a guard looking after me. And then I think I stayed like that for a whole hour, just me and this guard looking at me and me crying. And then they broke me somewhere, like I left the prisons. I went back to the truck with the man looking, watching at me. And then I went to a new, it looked like a prison, still having like, the barrier on the window, all the door being closed each time you go in a new room, etc. So once I was in this new prisons, and someone like welcomed me and said it was like, the psychiatric, like it's kind of a psychiatric hospital.
Oh, they put you in
the
prison ward with people who have like psychological
like
struggles,
justly like that. And I was shocked when he told me that I was there. And then they put me in the room, the new cell. And this new cell, I noticed that there was a camera on. It's the only things I noticed with a toilet, but subhanallah, this room the bed has not bed sheet, the toilet was dirty. I saw that the things was all, just broken. Everything was broken. The bed was broken. And subhanallah, I went there. They just look up the room. There's still the camera like in the room. And I just sit on the bed with no bedsheet, no nothing, no pillow. And I just seated all the night, just praying for my own life, like crying, praying, asking help for Allah. There is this special ayat in the Quran that I deeply love. It was, with Asiya and her husband. She was oppressed with him, and she just asked Allah to build a house near to him, ربي ابني لي عندك بيتا في جنة. and just asking him to help her. And this verses, this ayah is the ayah I always keep in mind, and having me like asking him to help me against the unjust people that oppressing me, that treating me bad. And just asking him to be near to him, just having a house near to him and nothing else. Help me and give me a house near to you. Wallah, it's the only things I still have keep in mind. Every time I can shout this ayah, I will shout this ayah. Every day I have like a special place. My heart have a special place with this ayah, because I feel like I can understand what she went through. I wasn't tortured like her, but you know, when people are top of you, pulling you, push you, throw you on the floor, like, and all the people just see what's happening to you and how they treat you bad, but nobody help you. And the only help you have is Allah, because we always say we can count on our friends, we can count on our parents, we can count on, you know, all the people, you know, but once you have bad people in front of you doing bad things to you, and you don't have your parents, you don't have your friend, you have nobody but just you and Allah. And when they were treating me bad, I just felt like I had nobody but Allah with me. And I just said to myself to sabr. But still, even if I was like having all this bad treatment with me, I was still saying to myself, some people are going through worse than me. They are in prison and they are getting tortured. I'm lucky that I'm not being tortured, you know. So the things that give me still strength is telling to myself there are people that going on with deeper struggle than you. So after that, like, you know, the French people come and they take me back to France. And I didn't even tell them what's happened to me. Like, I didn't feel the need to tell them, because I knew that the only one that will give me justice about this story is gonna be only Allah. Because the story I'm telling to you, Cadar, I never tell it to people. Not my parents, not the people around me, nobody. Like, you are one of the first person I tell this, beside a very, very close person that I know.
I understand why Sara kept her story to herself for so long. I mean, it makes sense that a person who has gone through what she has retreats into themselves a bit. I mean, she knew the realities of judgment too well to speak up loudly. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought her to us. And we have every intention in telling her story. Which doesn't end here, by the way. Sara actually returned to France, where she would encounter yet another set of trials. To hear what happens next, join us again next week.